So looking like Labour's trying to attack the Airbnb SA market, and rent-to SAs, as we know, are going to be over, in my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. And just SAs in general are going to have a massive impact, especially if Labour persists with this. So here's an article in Landlord Today saying landlord, and apologies, I'm a bit dyslexic, so when I read these out, apologies in advance, but Labour MPs say Airbnb massively impact private rented sector. So that's one article. But at the start of the year, what we've got to look at also is Conservatives said Airbnb hosts will need planning permission under a government Labour plans. This is in thecarter.com, and it said Airbnb style short let. This is an article in thecarter.com, sorry, and it says Airbnb style short let will soon require planning permission to operate, the government has announced. Under new legislation due to come in force this summer, councils will be given greater powers to control short-term lets through introduction of mandatory national registers of holiday homes. Short-term lets will be subject to increasing safety checks and and new planning use class will be applied to properties that are not used as solely main homes. So this got announced by the Conservative government before they done the flash election. I'm not sure if this is still coming in. I believe it probably will, but I don't know for certain. But especially with the noises that Labour are making now, put in the comments if you know it is. Obviously, at time of recording this, we're past summer, and as far as I'm aware, it's not in. And if anybody knows any different, let me know. I couldn't find anything online with that. But planning permission, especially for rent to SAs, is definitely going to kill it, because you've got to think about it. Planning application will take 3 months on average. So if a landlord's got a property to rent, is he going to wait 3 months for you to put that planning application in? No, he's not going to sit empty there. Vice versa, if you are a rent-to-rent person, are you going to pay 3 months rent while you're putting planning in? Ultimately, not knowing you will definitely going to get planning. So I feel the SA market will definitely get squeezed, especially rent to SAs from that. But there's a bigger play on with this. Let's go back to the other article. So this other article says on Landlord Today, a Labour MP has told the Commons that a proliferation, I'm not sure I said dyslexic, apologies, of Airbnb in London particularly is damaging communities and private rented sector stock levels. Rachel Blake, an MP for the City of London, Westminster, has told the Commons, every day I hear of a new family struggling to stay on an even keel after they have had to move to temporary accommodation away from schools and their support networks. Just this week, I've heard of a mother who has moved to Dagenham, over 12 miles from her daughter's school, and also works where she also works as a teacher assistant. She is realistic about the long-term effects of being in temporary accommodation, and now she's looking to put her son in a school around the area. So I've seen this firsthand. My sister lived in Canvey. Landlord wants to sell because landlords are getting poked with this big stick from landlords at the moment. They want to sell. She's put into temporary accommodation. I done a video here about how many people, like immigrants, has come into the country, and I said in that 6 million they're spending a day in temporary accommodation. Most of the frontward facing public think this is just on immigration. And it's not just on immigration, it is on landlords selling and people being homeless. And people, when you hear homeless and merchant accommodation, people think of the drug addict that's lost their way in life and they're sitting outside the shop with their kind of begging bowl. But these are normal people that landlords are setting up for because the government's attack on landlords. It's absolutely bonkers, but you don't hear this frontward facing. So my sister's had to move from Canvey. Again, probably a good 10, 12 miles away from where all a network is. Luckily, in this circumstance, the kids are outside of school, but I can only imagine the impact that would have had. I've actually got a property in Southend, which is an Airbnb, an SA, and I'll explain to you why that is an SA in a moment, and I'll come back to that. But if I move my sister into there, and again, the government wouldn't, she's on benefits, they wouldn't pay her rent, and they'd want me to pay that rent for her, you know, like, and I know I'm a brother, and some of you might think, well, why don't you pay for her? But like, ultimately, if she gets a home, not from a family member, they gets paid for. I don't know, a lot of this stuff is just backward from me. I'd like to hear in the comments what your thoughts are. Maybe you think I should like pay for my sister. I don't think that helps anybody out. I think people should work their own way through life, with their family or not. I think you should support them when they're needed, but just not like fully throw just money at them. But anyway, put in the comments what your thoughts are on that. She is realistic about the long-term effects. Yep, we've done that part. Families across London and the country in the same kinds of decisions. And look, the proliferation of short-term lets of the whole homes in is making the availability of private rented homes much worse. And of course, London is proudly international city, and we need to make sure that flexible accommodation options are available for visits. But we will remain a thriving international city only if we ensure housing is available for Londoners. Whole homes renting out consistently as a short-term let are making much more difficult. And I agree with that, without question of that. But the biggest play in a bigger picture on this is the government. So the thing that really just puzzles me and frustrates me, and especially frustrates me when you get hate online saying you landlords are taking all the stock. So I've got a handful of properties in the south, but majority of my properties are in the northeast. One of those properties in the south, I did rent out as a Airbnb, and it wasn't because I wanted extra income. Of course, I like extra income, but I wanted to protect my income first. That was the first reason for it. And because it's in a seasonal area in Southend-on-Sea, when I calculate what I get over the whole year, I'm not that much better off than I would be renting it as a single family home. As in profit wise, the thing that I am better off is I'm protecting my profit because under the Section 24 law, you can own, if you own a property in your own name and you're a high rate taxpayer, you pay profit on the turnover. So let's say this property rents for about £1,100 a month. I've got a £500 mortgage on it. I'll pay 40% tax on the 1,100. So just over, there's £420 tax on it. I've got £500 mortgage on it. And then you see there, that robs everything out there in tax, you know? So it makes it not really, it's a simplistic way of explaining it. There is other nuances, but it's just a high level thing of explaining it. So it's not worth me having that as a single family home anymore because of Section 24. So that was one of my main drivers. They are going to take that away on Airbnbs, and it's going to be an interesting space because a lot of these landlords, especially in the south, the reason they've turned them into Airbnbs, and a lot of them are just renting them out as rent to rent for Airbnb, is to avoid the tax more than they are the profits you get from them. A lot of them are not even that wildly profitable, but it's the tax savings that makes the difference on these. So it's going to be an interesting time when they take this away. And as I said, especially for rent to rent people as well, a lot of these landlords, as they now have to pay tax on the turnover, are now going to be repositioning and thinking about it. But if you think about it, especially in the south as well, these rents are typically anything from £1,500 to £2.5 grand, maybe £3 grand, £4 grand in London. So this doesn't help the person, the renter, because that renter, because their salary is say £3 grand a month and they're spending over half of the salary on their rent and then not including their other bills, they haven't got the disposable income to save up 100, 200k for the deposits that they're going to need for these houses. So even freeing these homes up is not really going to help the end of the market that the government's attack on landlords is aimed at helping. It's actually making it worse for them because more and more people are exiting. It's just forcing the prices up. More landlords are exiting the market than they ever have. I've never seen it like this. I've never seen rent. I've been in the property game since 2009 and I choose to stay in now, but I've never seen rents go up at this rate, and it's because landlords are exiting the market. It's a supply and demand. But then you look at the supply and demand on this as well. So we're in a deficit, and the government's got this magic money printing machine that they can turn on. COVID happens, let's just turn on all this money. They turn it on for these things. Why are they not turning this on to build homes? Like, this really bugs me. When you get people online saying, hey, it's your fault buying up all the stock, when I say, firstly, in the northeast, there's loads of stock. So there's loads of empty homes. So and in the areas I'm buying is not really homeowners I'm competing against. So that's just wrong and a misconception straight away. In the south, what we said about already, there is an unsupply of stock, but nobody's buying them anyway. Landlords are not buying homes in the south because the numbers just don't work anymore. You buy a house and yeah, just the returns are not there. The rents are not high enough to meet the price that you pay with it. So like, one of the big reasons there's not enough supply is not because landlords are exiting the market. Landlords are exiting the market because the government, and the government want them to. But it doesn't solve the problem for the people that need to rent, which is a lot of people. The problem for me is the not enough homes being built. In World War II, when we come out of World War II, the country was in a similar sort of deficit as they are today, like in a debt. And they turned on the magic money printing machine then, and the government built 300,000 plus homes per year. Lately, the government build around 10,000 per year. Let that sink in, 10,000 per year. They're spending 6 million a day on homing people. Why don't they not just cut that in half? Why don't you say, look, I'm not racist or by any means. My dad's from the Caribbean. I wouldn't be here without immigration. But why don't you just control the immigration a little bit, cut that budget in half and spend 3 million a day building? I'm sure they build quite a lot with 3 million a day. But guess what? It's not a front end agenda, and building takes usually more than 4 year planning process. And they just think in these 4 years increments, in my opinion. So we could be building, France and Germany have got similar economies to us, and they build over 300,000 homes per year, and they have done for years. We've needed to build 300,000 homes per year. We did it in the 50s, 60s and 70s, stopped in the 80s, declined in the 90s. The 90s started building about 100,000, even though they knew we still needed 300,000. And that was all by private developers, not private rented, but private developers. But as a result of the planning and making it so difficult, and Brexit, again, we need, like, I feel, look, let people come in, let the really vulnerable people come in, and really people like flee in these war-torn countries. But a lot of people coming across, especially in boats, and I'm not racist, of course I'm not, look at my skin, are coming across from France. You're not in a war-torn country. Why are you not staying in France? Because in England, you get home and benefits instantly. You just smuggled yourself into the country, done something illegal. You shouldn't be home. You should be put in prison, you know, and made it not encouraging. And then identify the people that genuinely need help, and then use that budget to genuinely help the people that genuinely need help. And use some of that budget, even like these temporary homes. You can build these temporary homes for 10k. The government and the council got loads of lands. Build these homes instead of spending 6 million a day on these. It just massively puzzles me. Put in the comments what your thoughts are. As I said, like people say to me all the time, it's your fault we've not got homes. Not in the south. I don't buy in the south. And in the north, there's loads of stock. It's not like I got the government in a headlock and said stop building. It's the government's fault for an undersupply of properties, and that's down to policies from private developers and them stop building themselves and making that decision to. And as we're seeing in multiple occasions, they've got this endless money pot that they pull out as and when they need it. But yeah, it puzzles me. Put in the comments what your views are around it. I think rent-to-rent Airbnb is going to be absolutely dead. I think rent-to-rent is really going to take a hit as well. I feel a lot of these properties are going to get sold. My view, I don't think it's going to help the renters either, because they can't afford to buy them, because especially in London, deposits on no. Average price in London is around 700k. You know, so they're not going to be able to buy these off their salaries. So yeah, I'd love to hear what your views are on it. Please hit the subscribe button if you're still here. It really helps the channel. And my wife did my terms. Mission to help as many people live on their terms. So please share this out if you think somebody will find this useful. But remember, if you don't evolve your ideas, you never live on your own terms. So evolve your ideas, live on your own terms. Make sure you give this video here a watch that Google suggests that you'll like next.